running a couple minutes late. It's now 7:03. We'll go ahead and start this meeting. The city council for the city of Brookshire, Texas will hold a special session for a budget workshop on September the 12th, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. City council chambers for the purpose of the following. Let's do a prayer and the pledge before we get started, please.
Our gracious Father in heaven, we humbly bow our heads before Thee at this time and offer thanks for the blessings we have received. We're grateful, Father, for this day which You have granted to us and for Thy protecting hand to watch over us. We're grateful, Father, for the good news and for all that it brings to this world. We're grateful, Father, for this time to meet together to discuss these important topics for our city and to be prepared for the upcoming year. Father, we ask this night that Thy Spirit would be here to grant us wisdom and guidance in these efforts. We ask You to help us be mindful that we serve Thee best always when we seek to serve each other. And this we pray in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Molina, would you do the roll call, please?
Alderman Green,
Present.
Alderman Taylor, Alderman McAnally,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards,
Present.
Mayor Branch,
Present.
Alderman McDade.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Okay. Next, we have agenda item number 5, which is public comments. No one signed up for that, so we'll move to agenda item number 6. New business. Letter A, discussion and review the proposed budget for the 2024 and 2025 fiscal year.
Budget, Mayor, do you have a recommendation on how you want us to go through this? You want to start by department?
Sure, we can do that.
So in front of you, you have, the
Excuse,
official budget book.
excuse me. Will you be talking also about 2024 budget or just only see 25 in here?
We're doing 24 to 25.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to discuss 24?
Well, I have since the budget year is ending, I would like to discuss 24. I have just a few questions, that's all.
What are your questions?
I'll let you finish with the book.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mayor, to interrupt. Are we talking about the current fiscal year? You have questions about prior to, so her presentation is solely gonna be about the next fiscal year, so it might be more appropriate if you have questions about the existing current fiscal year that we addressed on the front end.
So you're saying that we cannot discuss 24?
No, he's saying it'd
You
be,
say 24, I assume you mean the 23-24 fiscal year, which we're currently in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before she starts the next fiscal year presentation, I think we addressed the current fiscal year.
Yes, thank you.
And absolutely, we can talk about that.
Thank you.
so go ahead.
So they want you to talk about it first.
So, for 24, in the police department, I noticed that your year-to-date expenses were $2,744,000, and your current year budget is $4,594,000. So we have a balance of almost $2 million. Could you tell me why we still have that amount of money left over?
While she's looking at that, one of the reasons why I think it's okay to talk about the current fiscal year, because you're talking about a carryover in balance, which has implications for the fiscal year in which we're about to talk.
Yes, we're speaking about a carryover and also an explanation of why we're so far under budget in this account.
Do you know what the Wi-Fi is in here?
If I can, my vague recollection when we budgeted this last year was that we budgeted assuming that we would have a full staff of officers for a full year. And of course, we know that didn't happen for the last fiscal year. So I think that may be, I don't know if that accounts for the full 2
I
million,
can't get
but
onto the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi's not working right now to pull up the exact numbers, but yes, and all of that is explained in the transmittal letter in here, that the first week that I was here last year, they were proposing a budget. You're on a specific deadline for when the budget. Nobody had worked on the budget. Basically, it was a copy and pasted budget, almost nearly the exact same budget for the previous 3 years before. Yes, there was money in there for officers. We're almost completely fully staffed with what we have right now, but there is still some money that is left over from that. I'm trying to think, and that was very explicitly explained last year that we don't know how accurate these numbers are. So the numbers that could have been budgeted last year, we were giving ourselves a year to really figure out what trued up and what didn't true up.
Okay, so we think it's because of salaries and wages.
There's a lot of things, and when we go through department by department, we will cover some of those. We were grossly over budgeted on some things like payroll taxes, and there were some discrepancies in the retirement amounts and the insurance amounts. There were various other areas that the numbers were really off on as well.
Okay, and similarly with the court department, it's like 244,000 under courts.
Meaning remaining?
Yes.
Okay,
Explanation.
same explanation.
Salary and wages.
No, taxes, insurance, retirement, all of those were never calculated correctly. So taxes is 10% of the full salary amount. Retirement is 15.63%. Insurance is, I have to go back to get the exact number, like this year it's $1,200 amount. Those numbers were not configured correctly.
Mr. Richards, you remember they didn't do audits for 2 years.
No, we haven't done audit. I mean, this council just approved the audit for 2020 to 2021. So
Right.
it's more than 2 years that an audit hasn't been done.
Well, the 2021 was done. It was just never approved. But there was, from what I understand, there was no audits done for
Correct.
the next 2 years. Okay, yeah.
So
Okay.
we're a few weeks away from being 4 years behind.
Okay, I'm just concerned that, if we don't know where we were, then how can we forecast where we're going? And I know that wages and all of that are calculated per manpower, 280 hours and all that, but hopefully we got the numbers right moving forward. So the other question I have is garbage. And I know this is a touchy subject, this is specifically the budget. Do we have good calculations? Because right now, the garbage, the expenses we budgeted $243,000, and we have about 44,000 remaining. So, do we have good numbers?
We will be over on garbage, and we've been very open with that discussion, in that the number that was there was the number that was provided from Republic for the previous year. But keep in mind, for the months of November, and the months of January, we subsidized the city's trash. And to date, we still have, I can pull up the numbers, I'll log on in a second. But because of the amount of outstanding people who still haven't paid their trash, when Texas Pride sends us the bill, we still have to pay the bill. So we're still subsidizing a large percentage of people who haven't paid their trash bill. So we will be over on garbage. But, there was a change that was made because Republic chose not to extend our contract in the middle of the year. So we had to go out to bid, starting with a new provider in January.
Okay. Transfer to EDC, $1 million, almost $1.1 million for FY '25, balance remaining. And I don't see anything in '24. I mean, anything in expenses budgeted. So
That's
Okay.
because you're looking in the general fund. The EDC has their own individual fund, which is Fund 108. So the general fund only calculates the revenue that comes in from the comptroller's office, and then there's a due to line where that 0.25% portion is transferred out of the general fund into the Economic Development Fund 108. So if you go through the budget and you get to 108, you'll see the revenue coming in Fund 108, and then it's departmentalized out for that amount that's budgeted per those line items.
The $1 million.
Whatever the amount is,
Okay.
I mean, I gave you all the sheets that show what the monthly tranches are from the comptroller's office.
Okay.
That's starting on page 28.
I think he has a previous one, so it wouldn't be the same.
Okay. And then the last one is professional services. So we budgeted 350,000, and we spent almost $1 million.
That's correct. It's
So
actually,
we over budget by $600,000.
that's correct. That is ARPA money and MIT-MOD money, ARPA money and CBDG money, and the leftover money from the houses that were lifted. Unfortunately, previous administration staff did not budget correctly by showing the income of that grant money, and anything that goes out through professional services paid for those grants is paid out of professional services. So a large portion of that is things that were paid for the ARPA. That's our Southern software, our body cams, our radars, the engineering for the drainage plan, what else was there? The house that we're still paying on the J.W. Turner homes, of the homes in the city that were raised, those contractors.
So these were expenses to the city
Correct.
because the grant money wasn't appropriated correctly.
No, it was appropriated, but part of the grant, the contingency of the grant is that the city had to match it 20%. So, the problem that we ran into, that we'll also discuss later in this budget, is that let's say, when PD spends their ARPA money, and we have to turn in all the paperwork through the grant administrator, and it's $300,000 for a software system. They submit the paperwork, we have to turn around and pay that out. It was never recorded on the revenue side. So like with J.W. Turner Homes, that's a grant that's 4 years old. Unfortunately, the administration that was here, when that grant money came in, they deposited it into your operating fund. So that money the very next day was being used for salaries, for light bills, for water, for whatever else. It is supposed to be put in a separate grant fund to
Right.
hold on to, so that when you come time to true up on the expense of the grant, the money's been sitting there, and if it's been sitting there for 4 years, it's also been interest bearing, and if done smart, high interest bearing, so you make money on the money that you're not using at that time. However, the ARPA money, the CARES money, the CDBG money, all of that money was deposited into our operating fund and was spent with our general operations. So now here we are 3 and 4 years later, and we're having to pay bills for J.W. Turner and for engineering and the PD stuff, and we're having to use our operational funds that were spent from that grant 4 years ago.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Thank you.
cleanup for this budget system.
If y'all had gone through the audit process like you're required by law, they would have found all these things, and we wouldn't have to be cleaning it up now, but it sounds like that's what we're trying to do with this budget, is get back on track. It's been a long time.
And
Yeah,
I will say that right
I understand
now,
that, but there was also last year, but that's okay. I understand what it is.
what do
Okay,
you mean
thank
it was last year?
What I mean is that last physical year, this could have been cleaned up, but did we not recognize what was here with it?
Oh no, it's taken almost a year to clean this
Yeah.
up.
Oh,
I mean, it's
okay.
been a constant progress. Like, there's been so many things that we have had to clean up. This is not something that I could have just come to council that first week that I was here and said, oh, I can fix it just like that. This is, like Mr. Olson said, these things would have been found in an audit, and there's a lot more that I'll be able to tell you. I mean, I have the data here to provide, but, staff knew that some of these grants were outstanding, but nobody knew to say anything that, oh, well, we still have 500,000 outstanding on a CDBG grant for homes that are being completed by a contractor.
I know. It's just concerning that, it makes you wonder, should we just audit all of the grants programs? Because look what we have here,
We are.
Well,
So-
Councilman, that'll be part of this audit process, is they'll look at the fact that you've set up these separate accounts for all these specific funds and that they're being spent properly, so you'll get that full audit process at the end of this fiscal year, beginning of next. I don't know when they plan on starting, but I assume first of the year, give or take.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any more questions? Okay, if you want to, let's see. We can flip to the actual budget printout. It'll be behind the fourth.
One,
tab.
2, 3, 4.
And this is actually, this is broken up into our three funds. It's our general fund, which is Fund 100. And then on page, on page 29,
Excuse me. Could you give us, so the citizens and the public will understand, a run-through of what you have here in the book, starting out front here?
yes. So, this is an actual, it's called a budget transmittal. The state actually has requirements of what you're supposed to provide for your, this is what you call a budget transmittal. The state does have requirements that you have to provide to your council and to the public about the budget process, about what your tax rates, how your process goes. So what you'll see is in the first section, this is just, this is your information section. It goes over city council, your staff, and then we included, pictures, broken down by department of who all of our staff members are. So if you go to the second tab, that's our financial data. So in that, the first page 11, that's what's posted in the newspaper, notifying people that this is actually required by the state. Page 11, this is what's published in the newspaper that gives information about last year's fiscal year, this year's fiscal year, and it goes over the proposed tax rate. So this year, we're going to be lowering our tax rate. So last year it was 59,387. We're lowering it to 56,514. At this time, we have a zero debt obligation. The no new revenue rate, is the rate that we would incur if we accumulated the same amount of revenue that we did last year. So basically not taking into consideration any of the increased taxable value from new properties added to our tax roll. So that no new revenue rate for this year would have been 50,060. The voter approval rate, again, that's what we have proposed is the voter approval rate. The voter approval rate is actually calculated at a maximum of 3.5% from your rate last year, David? Yes, from last year. It used to be 8%, and then in 2019, House Bill 2, Senate Bill 2 changed it to where it was a 3.5% tax cap. That's been very difficult for a lot of cities because that's almost over a 50% cut for cities to be able to revenue from tax rates. So if you go on down, the average homestead taxable value in our city limits was $186,000 this year. The tax on the average homestead is $1,054.59, and the total levy on all properties that we can anticipate this year is 5.971546. The sheet behind it is essentially the same sheet. It's just broken down. It just looks a little bit different. For some people, it's just a little bit easier to read and understand. but basically it goes over the exact same thing. Last year's taxable value, we talked about this a couple meetings ago. This year we increased, we hit over $1 billion. And it goes, we have $6.2 million of new taxable property that has come into the city limits. I think one of the biggest things that I do want to cover on this is that in going through this process and going through historical documents, past TNTs, past budgets, is that the county, we have two taxing entities in the city of Brookshire. We have our city, which you'll see the city tax roll, but then we also have a separated area called a TIF. A TIF and a TERS belong to the same body. The TIF is the actual entity, the TERS is like the area, so that would be Crystal Lakes. One of the things that we realized is that in past years, we were not accounting for the TERS as an additional taxable value to our city taxable value, which in the long run has hurt us on our tax rate, because our tax rate, again, could have been lower than what I had previously disclosed to you could have been a lower rate. So I came to y'all with the data that we have been overtaxing the residents of Brookshire by almost 20 cents since 2019, but actually it could have been lower than that because we failed to include the TERS value in addition to our city taxable value. So that's where some of the discrepancy and a lot of the numbers have come from. So to get your true taxable value, you have to add those numbers together. After that is the TNT worksheet. I've provided this to y'all before. To be honest, whoever created the truth in taxation just really liked to create graphs and numbers, but this is what we have to fill out for the state that goes through our whole TNT calculation. There's different options because depending on the type of city you are, the size of your city, if you're a small taxing unit, if you've been through an emergency, there are different taxing options that you can take. However, we're pretty plain and simple. We have no debt obligation. We just chose to take the voter approval rate and kind of do the simple route. So everything on these pages are pretty straightforward. Then if you'll go behind the next tab, this is what we call a transmittal letter. This is the letter that I submit to the council to kind of go over what our high points are, just kind of like the general 45,000 viewpoint of what the budget is going to entail this year. This is the part, and the transmittal letter is where your city manager, city administrator basically highlights what some of your major changes, some of your obstacles were in last year's budget going to this budget, and you're just highlighting the things that will be covered in the budget. The things after that, I know I had brought this up before as to why I was pretty surprised. A lot of these are actually required by the state, and they've never been done before. So I think that's
recall
why
we had a long discussion about that
I think
last October in these meetings, that we didn't have all of this
I
material.
think that's why this year, I think for all of us, all of the staff and the staff that's here, this has been truly and honestly, we can say we have put thousands of hours into this budget because we have had to essentially scrap and start over. And I feel that we are presenting a pretty stable budget with all of the required aspects of what needs to be provided and presented to each
I have
of
a
you.
question.
Yes.
So the transmittal ladder,
Mm-hmm.
this is my first time seeing it. Have you seen it? You have? Have you seen it? Is this the entire transmittal ladder?
No.
What page is that?
Transmittal letter starts on page 13 and it goes to page 16. The supplements behind it are the supplements that are required by the state. So that's your introduction to your reader's guide. Basically, it explains the essential parts of the budget. After that is the budget summaries, then the organization of the budget, summary of financial fund accounting.
So this is a part of the packet with the transmittal ladder, the documents behind it,
Yes.
page 18, all
Yes.
that. Okay.
Is there a concern with that?
No, I've never seen it before. This is my first time seeing it.
Right.
So I haven't read it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, there's no requirement that you have to have read it by that. That's why I'm presenting it to you, so that you take it with you with the supplements and you can read it.
I understand, but you had mentioned that, explain what it is again. You mentioned that it tells the highlight, what happened, the shortcomings, all of that, right?
Right.
What's in this transmittal letter? Tell us again.
Would you like me to read it?
No, just, I mean, it's too long to read here. Just give us the highlights of
It
it.
goes over the budget principles, the budget process, things of our challenges with the budget from the previous year, how we are correcting those challenges going forward in the new year. The general fund, it talks about we're dropping our tax rate, what our collection on sales tax was, what our focus on personnel is gonna be, and what our program measures and accomplishments were.
Okay.
This is very standard boilerplate stuff that gets submitted to budget, with budgets all the time.
You read it?
Have I read
This one.
this letter? No, we just got it today. That's why we have these workshops, so that we can be presented with this information.
Did you present it in the workshop?
This is
letter?
This is the workshop.
Well, we had some before now, right? We met before the budget, right?
We have,
Okay.
and then, but we also had several budget workshops planned, and that's when this is presented, is in the budget workshop.
Okay.
The portion after that is where we will go to the actual budget printouts. And those we can, if you want to just take them department and go department by department, we can certainly do that. The department heads are here.
You said 100 goes through page 27, is that right?
Yes.
And then 108 is EDC, and that's
Yes,
29
it's
through
28,
33 or something like
29.
that?
30, 31, 32, 33. And then Hotel Motel, Fund 104, starts on page 34.
Yeah.
So on page 3, garbage again. So $475,000. Is that a good number?
Yes. That's taking what our current, fees are, what we pay trash, and what that number calculated by the months is. What is it? It's about 20, I think it's like, yeah.
Is it calculated by household?
No, it's calculated, so we are billed by Texas Pride based on, by unit, they call it by unit, by household. And there's a fee for that, like we get, this is the fee, I mean, we're sent a bill, so we've taken the average monthly bill and we've taken it across 12 months to get that number.
For the total number of citizens and businesses in the city, household,
Yes.
because last year was 200,000, and now it's like,
Okay, well, last
city.
year, that's what I'm saying, there were several factors that affected last year. So last year, we had a different provider. That provider changed the rates in the middle, like a month into a new budget year. So that number was just held over from the year before. Then that provider dropped us as a customer. We had to
and
go
then
out
we
to
got
bid.
someone new and recalculated the numbers. That's what I'm saying. If we recalculated numbers with the new company, then
Yes.
did we calculate the numbers correct with the new company?
Yes. You will see that right here, 2024 current, it says 200,000. 2025 requested is 475,000. So that is a good number compared, I mean, based on what our service is today.
So the commercial businesses pay the city?
No, the commercial businesses pay Texas Pride.
Okay,
This is residential only.
okay.
Okay.
I thought I heard you say commercial and residential earlier. That's why.
No, commercial deals directly, they have their own billing system for commercial, they do their own. So if you're looking at page 2 and 3, if it's opened up like this, just going down, you'll see where we have, in 100-43,000, that's our ad valorem property tax. Down from that, you'll see sales tax. That is the number that is deposited annually. I've put that into metrics and sent that to you. Basically, what we've done is we've only calculated a 3% increase on sales tax for next year. Basically because we're not quite sure what the market's gonna do. The market has been a little stale for the last couple of months. While we have grown month over month from the previous year. We usually in presidential elections, in years of presidential elections, you see that slow down a little bit. So being on the conservative side, we only budgeted a 3% increase on that sales tax.
What's the other revenue
So
of 767,000?
The other revenue is basically so there's a distinct difference between a budget and a bank account. So our bank account right now, our city is very financially healthy with the money that we have. The bank account tells its own story. So because the budget numbers are so off, because we've never had a trial balance true up the budget, we had to essentially on paper through this account right here show an interfund transfer. But the chances are that that interfund transfer is not going to be a physical transfer from our budget, from our bank in our reserves to our general fund. The last trial balance, true trial balance that we have is from 2019. And when you finish an audit, they go into your financial system, they true up the trial balance in your financial system so that the next year you're starting.
Right.
So this right here, that 760, that is the year over year deficit, identifiable deficit from the lack of a trial balance for the last 3 years.
Okay.
So instead of publishing a budget that showed a $767,000 deficit that we know is truly not there, what we do, the accountant and the CPAs recommend that we show it on paper as a potential interfund.
So essentially, it's just a funds transfer from
Correct.
our bank account to our bank account.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And it's really just for paper purposes.
Sure.
It's not something that would actually happen. Franchise payments, that's a combination of many different things. A bulk of that, actually 201,000 of that comes from CenterPoint. So we we get notified every year of the legislature that oversees the CenterPoint franchise payments, and that's what that number is, and that's just a direct deposit every single month. Below that, the garbage franchise fees, that's strictly the commercial franchise fees that we receive from Texas Pride. I think one of the more contentious revenues that I really want us to talk about is if you go down, there's two things that I really want to address here, and Sherry can help me address one of them. One of them pertains to municipal court fines and fees, and the other one is to building permits. So I'll hit on both of them, and then I'll let Sherry, she has some supplements in here that she can kind of go over, but
Can you tell what line items those are?
yes, so it starts on 100-43-210 building permits.
Okay.
You'll see that last year we budgeted $75,000. This year we're looking at increasing that revenue to $120,000. But I want you to go back to that 2024 and look at that $75,000 number. One of the things that we have found that has not been advantageous for the city is that last year we budgeted to only make $75,000 on building permits. As of today, the city has spent almost $400,000 in building permits, and it's because we're not correctly, and in some cases we're not even really charging for building permits. We haven't updated our master fee schedule in quite some time, and I think that when we really got into it and we really started putting the numbers to it, We have spent close to $300,000 in essentially giving away engineering services, plat reviews, floodplain reviews, neighborhood reviews, because we're not charging for it. And so what you have to remember is that this is not a game of making money, it's a game of breaking even, and we're not even breaking even. So when somebody comes to us and says, for instance, we have a developer that's been coming back and forth to the city for 3 years now. He's changed his use permit 3 different times. Each time that we've done that, the city's incurred almost $30,000 in engineering fees for plan review, plat review, floodplain. Bureau Veritas has to go through and review things. And we've had legal fees because they want to change use, and there have been a lot of changes. Those are all things that we have not responsibly built into our fee schedule for permitting, so we've essentially been eating that cost. Basically, we are charging the Bureau Veritas fee plus $30. That doesn't even cover the $30. Cover the time that our employees are putting into entering, following up, sending plans over, truing up what's going on with the permit. We're about 3 times below the amount of time.
We're not even covering Beatrice's time
No.
to deal with that permit.
Absolutely not even close. So one of the things that I will be proposing in one of the future meetings is that we go back to that master fee schedule and we appropriately put in fees. For instance, we have a developer that's looking at moving into the city with 300 homes, commercial and industrial. We don't have anything set up when he comes and he gives us the plans, and we have to send those plan reviews over to engineering to be reviewed for a multitude of different engineering reasons. All we do is charge him a $75 permit plus $30 fee. And there are thousands and thousands of dollars in legal, engineering, and review that goes into those permits. So the second one is, and Sherry has a chart that she can go over, is basically all of our municipal court fines and fees. In the municipal level, we don't write tickets to make money. But when we do write tickets, there's a lock and step process between your courts department and your police department. If your police department is out spending their time writing tickets, it does the city no good to write those tickets and bring them to court and nearly every single one of them be dismissed. And I'm gonna let Sherry's our court administrator, kind of go over some of the numbers and some of the things that she's been able to kind of uncover over the last year. And the sheet that she is referencing is in one of the very last sections. It is,
Look like this.
yes,
gonna
it's a
be
graph. Yes, it's behind the folded paper. I mean, it's in towards the back. Did you find it?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next one.
Okay, what I put together was kind of like a chart graph just showing that the in blue is cases that, well, let me start from the bottom. The gray are citations imported. So I started from 2001 all the way through 2023. And citations imported is on bottom. If you see the little orange, that's dismissed by judge. The green is dismissed by prosecutor, and the blue shows closed cases. Closed cases, normally that's where they paid, they didn't come to court, they didn't want to do, they just decided to pay and be done, pay their citation and go on their way. According to this graph, the dismissed cases, if you look on there, like the citations imported in 2001 were 2,249 citations imported for that year. Dismissed by prosecutor was 230. Dismissed by judge was 102. If you keep going down, 1,825 in 2002. Dismissed by prosecutor, 551. Dismissed by judge, 161. And you can keep going, 2003, 924 were reported. Dismissed by judge, 59. 400 dismissed by prosecutor. In 2004, 224 were imported. Dismissed by judge, 63. Dismissed by prosecutor, 427.
How do we dismiss more cases than we?
That's my question.
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
I mean,
How did we
as far as
dismiss
like-
more cases than we had? We had
Well-
224 cases and we dismissed 427 of them and 63. So that's 490 cases were dismissed and only 224 were made.
This is the data that I collected from Encode. It shows everything. I even have it on paperwork. But yes, a lot of cases have been dismissed. If you even look in
I will say this, down through the years,
2000 and
excuse me, I will say this, over the years, I remember officers leaving. I remember a lot of things that took place in the police department that caused officers to leave, and when they left and they didn't show up for court, those cases were dismissed. And you're saying all of this, but you probably need to, if you're going to go through it, give us the data.
I will.
I don't really understand what this has to do with the budget right now, though. But
Well, what it has to do with is the cases that are dismissed in court by the prosecutor, which means less revenue going forward, which, like she said, we don't look at that part of it, the revenue. But when you go into budget and that's just, say, money that you're not receiving. So when we go into our budget, it brings down the numbers.
okay, so it sounds like you building a case against the prosecutor on here.
No, what we're doing is
No,
we're identifying the fact that it's costing us a substantial amount of money to hold municipal court if every ticket that comes through here is being dismissed.
Well, we probably need to talk to the prosecutor. You should have had her here. If you're going to go through this data,
Excuse me, what?
if you're going to go through this data, you should have had the prosecutor here. If you're talking about tickets being dismissed, you should have had the judge and the prosecutor here.
I think they're just trying to show why the revenue amount.
I
is being
understand. I
budgeted
understand
for
fully what's going
40,000
on.
instead of 50,000. They're just trying to justify that.
I understand exactly what's going on. I think I've been doing this a pretty long time,
Me too.
and I understand exactly what's going on. So you can proceed.
No, I think
But
it's
next time, I think we should have a meeting with the prosecutor and the judge if you're going to go through these.
I think it's important to highlight when you're talking about revenues and expenses, to rightfully ask why did we not have the revenues? Why did we have 0 revenues in warrants this year? Why did we have a substantially lower amount in revenues than what we budgeted? That's all that this is showing, is that yes, there were tickets that were dismissed because maybe the officer wasn't here anymore. But maybe there are also tickets dismissed just because we've gotten in a habit of dismissing tickets.
It's not fair to say, ma'am. Brookshire doesn't run like that. Just, oh, we're gonna dismiss this for, I think that's very disrespectful of you to say that. Not just,
Can the audience
Really
speak?
shouldn't just have members of the audience.
I get it.
Unless y'all
I
recognize.
need the rules so I can say what I need to say, Mr. Olson.
Well,
But anyways,
we-
it really should be recognized.
we doesn't, basically, there's not enough data to determine what happened here. I mean, if we don't have the prosecutor and the judge, at least we could have the backup to tell us why all these tickets are dismissed. You know, so it's inconclusive.
A ticket can be dismissed. I've seen tickets dismissed because the officer didn't fill out the paperwork I don't know the process, but didn't fill out the paperwork the right way. Wrote the wrong street. Did show up for court. You know,
Recognize that.
it's a lot.
It is, I recognize that, and that's why I said, when you have a police department and a courts department in the same city, they need to work lock and step so that they understand what the process is in transferring from one department to the other. So, I will say that the police department and the court department do work together. They do communicate and coordinate. We have gone to a system to where everything is transferable from the time that the officer writes the ticket, it's submitted through dispatch sends it over to courts, it sits in courts until they go to court. Everything is there. It automatically hits the financial system. There is no break in process.
So this system you got now is flawless.
I'm not saying it's flawless,
Okay.
but it's a lot.
I know
it's
it's
a lot
not.
more efficient than what we've had in the past. There's
Okay.
not lost documents or, everything is right there so that the two departments that maintain this process have access to everything in real time where it's at in the process. The officer's no longer here, then yes, the ticket gets dismissed. But I think that it's only fair to show, if there is a question, why didn't we meet our revenue that we put in the budget for 2024? It's only fair to go and say, well, here's part of the reason. I don't know why all the tickets were dismissed, but what I can tell you is that we had budgeted to make $75,000 in our line item for municipal courts. We didn't hit it. Well, we had 259 tickets that were dismissed.
I would say I didn't question and not questioning the revenue for the court department because I know that is not something that you should look at as a source of revenue. For one, I do know the struggle that our police department had with maintaining staff. So I didn't really expect the court department budget to be high.
Moving down, you will see under grant revenue, 100-43461. That's where we have appropriately put in the outstanding grant money that we are going to be spending this coming year. And you will see that that's appropriately expensed out under professional services on the expense side.
I have a question. Page 8, payroll taxes. We are $184,000 in 24, and we're asking for only 62,025.
Correct. So
Why is
payroll taxes is 10% of your salary value. The reason that we had so much last year is because we've paid a substantial amount in penalties and fees because payroll taxes were not appropriately paid in 22 and 23.
Okay.
Is that an IRS action?
Correct.
Okay. Is that the same with health insurance?
Health insurance, yes, health insurance actually, what page, which?
That's page 8, line item 451.
Yes, health insurance, 51140, that's one that we've talked about a couple of times, leading up to this meeting. Our health insurance, because we have less than 50 employees, health insurance has gone up. And that's one of the things that we've had to adjust for this year is the health insurance. One of the struggles that we've had with health insurance is that we have less than 50 employees. We have an aging population, or what the insurance feels as an aging population of employees. One of the struggles that we have that I do talk about in depth in the transmittal letter is in the recruitment, specifically on the public works side and the police side. For an employee to come in, and we pay 100% of the employee's insurance, but for the employee to add their family to the insurance, it's an additional $1,900 a month. So we have actually had candidates that have declined offers because they were the sole provider and they needed to provide for their family and they couldn't afford it. So we recognized that problem several months ago, and we've actually been working on this since November. We fall in a very unique category with insurance. We're not in a competitive market right now because we have under 50 employees, but we are proposing some things this year to do a little bit differently with insurance. We will continue to fund the employee's health insurance at 100%. We're also adding a $100 health savings plan, or a flex spending plan. They will be given $1,200. They can use that throughout the year. We are only billed for what the employee uses, so if somebody is given that flex plan and they don't use it, then the city doesn't.
What about the urgent care option?
We have the urgent care. We have a specific next level urgent care. It's a premier rider that we add on. We pay that for every employee, and that covers every employee and every single one of their family members. That pretty much next level covers routine care, vaccinations, broken arms, x-rays. One additional thing that we are adding that will help supplement for employees not being able to afford putting their full family on insurance is offering an accident insurance program that will cover their entire family. It's $75 a month per employee. And what that does is if the employee has to go in, or a family member for if they're sick, then they pay them $75. I mean, there's 3 pages of different things that it covers.
Okay, and you mentioned that there's an explanation about this in the transmittal letter?
Yes.
Okay, and is this enough money, $115,000?
That's just for administration. That's just the administration department, yes.
Okay, because it says health insurance right there.
Yes. No, that's, so anything that we're, if you want to go into expenses, Department 400 is for administration. So that's
Okay,
anybody who's here at City Hall.
right, it's enough, right?
Yes,
Okay, professional services.
Professionals.
You have $350,000 in '24, and you're asking for almost $2 million in '25.
Yes, so I just went over that on the revenue side. I mean, yes, on the revenue side. Talked about professional services. That's where everything that pertains to a grant comes out of. So JW Turner, anything that we
The
do with grant
1.8 in revenue that we saw
is
earlier
reflected.
is offset by
Correct.
this
It's reflected in the
1.9 million
professional
here.
services.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's any grant obligation we have is gonna come out of professional services. So that's grant works, that could be whoever is going to be, working with the engineer for contractual services. So that 1.8 in revenue is offset by what is it, and that's the proper way that it should be done,
I get it,
where
yeah.
it was not done like that before.
Okay. And page 9, equipment maintenance. You lowered about 20,000. Is that going to be enough? That's going to be line item 54010.
Yes. So we did, I'm not really sure what that 60,000 entailed, but the 40,000 is sufficient for what we use that line item for. A lot of that is anything dealing with equipment. So our AC system, our generator that we have out in the parking lot, those are the 2 main things that those cover.
Okay. Page 10, engineering fees, 70,000 in '24, no money in '25.
So that was a new line item that we added because we had no way to actually, when we're actually doing accounts payable, we had no way to charge engineering fees. It was basically all thrown into one bucket. So there are a couple of new line items that you'll see where last year it was 0 and there's money this year. We've actually taken those line items and split them out into specifics for engineering fees is one of them. When we get to public works, you'll see that there's licensing and permits residential, licensing and permits commercial. So throughout the year, we can go and we can pull reports and see how much we have expensed for residential permits, commercial permits, and anything that we have to do with engineering fees actually has an engineering line on it. So there's a lot of things with engineering that are not directly related to an expensable project. So we might use an engineer to come in and help us do some ordinance work or some planning and zoning or, subdivision ordinances, things like that, that there is not a line item under permitting or inspection, and that's when it would fall into an engineering line item.
Okay, so you didn't budget in this fund, you did it in each individual account.
Correct.
Right. Okay, special events, does that include, that's going to be line item 56070, special events, is that all of the festivals in there?
That is.
Okay. And then I noticed beautification,
Yes.
That's on the city side?
Yes, that's just here at City
Yeah.
Hall. Mm-hmm.
That's just here at City Hall.
And to be quite honest, that is the reason that it's such a low amount is because for the past several years, nothing has been spent out of that line item. That's not to say that we can't do something, but it's just, it's a little bit of a placeholder. We've never really used that.
Okay.
If you go down to page 11, you will see line item 57100. That is the capital outlay, and I apologize that it cut off some of those words, but that's capital outlay facilities. That is the renovation for this council chamber that we discussed. Lights, ceiling, the window, taking the window out and actually making that a safe wall, dealing with some of the floor issues, and then doing some bathroom renovations. In our bathrooms back here, they're not ADA accessible, and if you've been in them, they're quite old. So there are some things that all of that is in that, encumbered in that line item. Any more administration questions?
No, not for me.
We can move on to the next department is Keep Brookshire Beautiful. And this is obviously a new one. We put some money in it last year, and we just weren't ready to kind of start that. So this is the department where we will look at starting the youth advisory and really start programming out of Keep Brookshire Beautiful. A lot of these line items are pretty straightforward.
Where's that one at?
I have no questions.
Anybody have any questions on that?
That's page 12.
12.
It's just one page for the whole department.
If there aren't any questions on
So-
that one, we'll go to page
Well, I
13.
have a question on that one. So Keep Brookshire Beautiful.
Mhm.
I noticed there's a lot of telephone travel membership. I would think this should be something like planting flowers on the roadway. And I know EDC does some of that, but I'm talking about,
So
I would think that this would be something to help beautify the city. But I'm looking at, office supplies, membership fees, travel, telephone, advertising, and only like $5,000 for special events.
this is a pretty simple budget just for this year because we're in the infancy of this program. So Keep Brookshire Beautiful is actually an affiliate member of Keep Texas Beautiful and Keep America Beautiful.
Right.
So there are a lot of programs that we can do. Being a member of them makes us eligible for a
Grants.
substantial amount of grant money and allocation money. This is also where we would house the Youth Advisory Committee that we discussed restarting. However, this is just, when you talk about membership, because there are organizations that umbrella over Youth Advisory, different types of committees, but that's not to say that this can't be amended throughout the year, but we don't really know what that's going to look like. So these are numbers that have pretty much kind of been kept the same year over year. I don't know when did the last one end? The last Youth Advisory?
No, I don't know when.
So these were the same numbers that the previous Youth Advisory had. There were a few increases you'll see over the years that we added in. I'll be honest, this last year we spent nothing out of that because we're planning.
So
for that.
the Youth Advisory Committee, they get funding from this, or?
Yes.
Yeah,
From which line item?
It's part of this
It's
budget,
part-
is the
it's-
funding for that, yeah.
Okay. From which line item?
Well, it depends, if there's several different organizations that offer memberships for Youth Advisory Committees. So if you're going to be joining, one of those umbrella organizations, then you can take your membership dues out of 53-110. If they're having some sort of event and they want to send out invitations or flyers, that's what you have your office supplies for. You can go and buy your materials. You can charge them to that office supply line item. We've got advertising money in here. If we want to put some sort of advertisement out for membership or.
Okay. I was just inquiring because one of the local churches had inquired about this. Is that right, Eric, Mr. Green?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Public Works, are y'all ready to move on, or do you have questions? Okay, page 13 is Public Works, and, Clint is here. Ernest was not able to be here tonight, so Clint is gonna assist with Public Works. This one, right out of the bat, you will see, this is the first year in many years that our Public Works has been completely staffed with all of the positions that we've been, that we had. We went through a couple of years there where we had, we were hiring people, we were keeping them on for 78, 79 days, then we were letting them go before the 90-day period, and then it was just kind of a really, like, circular door that kept happening, and so, I don't really know what happened with the salary, the position, the salary line had just been way off. It didn't match the amount of employees that the department had been approved for, so we made those adjustments. In Public Works, we're asking for 2 additional employees this year. One is a laborer that will assist on the Parks and Recreation side, and then an additional employee will be split between PD, which will handle our equipment and our automobile maintenance. And we're splitting that between Public Works and PD because we feel like we can find, we had a mechanic position in the budget last year, and about mid-year we were not able to find anybody, so we transitioned that into just a laborer, because that's where we needed the help. But with the coming through and upgrading our fleet and our equipment, I think one of the things that we have learned is that over the years we haven't taken good care of our cars and our equipment, and that's put us in a bad position. And so now I think we have a different perspective on it. We have a lot of new vehicles, a lot of new equipment, and we are taking a lot better pride and making those vehicles last and take care of them. But outsourcing the maintenance has gotten very, very expensive. So we are asking for those 2 additional employees, and then you will see that the payroll taxes, the retirement, and the health insurance do fall in line with those salary asks.
What is L&P residential and L&P commercial?
License and permit.
Oh, okay.
And those are new line items. Again, those were the ones that I had brought up that we, they're new in the budget this year for reporting sake, so that we can, when somebody comes through, and if Beatrice processes a residential permit, when we get the bill from engineering or Bureau Veritas, we can code it correctly, so at any time we can go through and we can actually pull a transaction report and be able to see what the cumulative months total for residential versus commercial was.
So page 15, account number 54170, road repair, $473,000.
Yes, so that is the ARPA money that we will be, we did not use it last year because the engineer, we had some issues with the engineer drawing things out. So basically we just transferred that money over this year, and that's the remaining ARPA road project money. And then we do have an additional, if you go down to, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but
$75,000 for drainage.
yes,
Is that ARPA money too?
no.
What is that?
That's our in-house drainage repair.
Public mowing went down from 150,000
It
to
did.
20,000?
So last year, for the last couple of years, actually, we've had a contract, and we had, and again, I think it was maybe a staffing issue, it was an equipment issue, but we were spending a substantial amount of money contracting everything out from City Hall, 90, all of the parks. We now have, adequate personnel.
So we're saving over $100,000 for bringing that in-house?
Mhm.
Is that correct? Did you do a proper cost analysis on that?
Yes. Mhm.
And it's a savings
Yes.
to be in-house, with the insurance and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
you will go under equipment, capital improvement equipment, which is line item 57030. We have $185,000 in there. We'll be adding 2 additional mowers in that line item. And one of the things that we are doing is we're putting a substantial amount of money into Hovis Park this year to get it up back to good standards. It's a fantastic park. It's just not been taken care of, and there are a lot of things that we need to do to kind of bring it back up to standard. So one of the things that we are going to do is using our in-house staff. We'll be sending 2 of them to training for ball field maintenance, and that includes some additional equipment that we can use to in-house maintain those ball fields. So there's a turf maintainer that will be included in that, as well as the 2 additional lawnmowers.
Back on page 15, municipal water,
Yes.
55,080.
Yes.
You have 130,000 this year and 0 last year.
Yes. We added, that's a new line item. The reason it's 0 is that's a new line item. In the past, everything was just thrown into utilities or other utilities, and depending on who entered the utility bill that month, depended on what account it went to. So we have gone through and we have separated to where now utilities is only CenterPoint and our electricity, and then we've separated out the water separately. So our water did go up this year. I don't really have a good explanation for it. I do know that last month we got a bill for $91,000 for our water park.
You have a
Now,
leak?
no, Clint can explain that.
I met Willis from the water department out there. He was on the impression originally that it had a tap coming in for the concession stand on that from Lakeside, and the other tap that's out on Hovis Road was for the water pump. But once that leak occurred, he came out and dug it, we all dug it up and found it. Because actually the water was getting metered twice.
Oh.
So he pulled out that second meter because actually there's only 1 tap for Hovis Park.
Oh, wow.
Going through 2 meters, so we were getting metered twice.
Wow.
And then after that was discovered, he went ahead and removed the second meter.
Wow. Okay.
So continuing down, you'll see 57070 capital outlay streets. We've also put in an additional 275,000 for street repair. So that once we go through that cumulative list that we have from the engineer, we'll be able to mark some significant streets off of our list this year. We've also broken,
So that is being added to the 470.
correct, the
something.
470 is what was our allocation.
But
for
the
our-
city is now contributing 275,000 in
275.
addition to that.
And then if you actually go back, we actually added some line items for minor and major road repair. So the reason that we have street repair separated from minor and major is because minor and major is something that we can do in-house. So minor is just a small cold patch project. Major is something that might be a larger asphalt project, but we do that for reporting purposes so that we can actually at the end of the year go through and run reports on expenses to true up with the work reports that Margie, does for Clint. We can actually go back and we can run reports on this is how much linear foot, this is how much we spent on road repair for this year. So I will say that this year's budget does reflect a substantial amount of money being invested in culverts and in road repair. Under capital outlay, special equipment, one of the things, and Clint can talk to this a little bit more, that we've put in is we've actually put a jet trailer in. A jet trailer is a piece of equipment that we can hook up, that we can start on one side of town and basically go through the whole city, but it's used to clean out culverts. And we don't have anything right now that allows us to really get in there and clean out efficiently and effectively the jammed up culverts that we have. Some of them we can't even really remove properly until we can get all of that stuff that's been backed up out of it. We can rent one of those, but it is extremely, extremely expensive, and we are confident that getting on the new drainage plan that we've been able to kind of map out, and Clint and Ernest are confident enough that by having this piece of equipment, we can get on an annual routine basis of keeping our culverts clean and pushed out. And, you know, residents, if something happens off schedule, all they have to do is call up here, do a work order with Margie. Margie can put it on the list and the guys can go out there and get it taken care of. And if y'all, again, Clint's here, so if y'all have any questions.
Nope.
Anything?
Do you have overtime in public works? I noticed overtime in police now.
We do, we do have a small cushion in there for overtime, but honestly, a lot of the guys in public works, now that we're fully staffed, they actually prefer the personal time off to be able to take time. I mean, they're paid for it. We do have money allocated if they do want to be paid for it.
So we have two policies now. So we're gonna have two options,
So our personnel policy has the two options in there,
overtime and personal time.
correct?
So it's always been there. Overtime's always been there.
Mhm.
We just didn't use it.
Yes, correct. We just
Okay.
didn't use it because we weren't fully, I mean, we didn't budget for it correctly. We have budgeted for it correctly now, and we didn't utilize it the way that it was supposed to be utilized. Do y'all have any more questions on Public Works?
None.
Okay. Next will be PD. And then Chief and Cheyenne are here. They've both done a lot of work. Last year, we put a lot of time and effort into the police department and really building the police department kind of physically and emotionally building it back. And I think if you look at where we are today versus where we were a year ago, it's 180-degree difference. I'm really proud of what we've been able to do there. In the budget for salary, you will see that we are proposing to unfreeze the previous 4 positions that were frozen. We have 2 open positions right now, but you will see in the earlier stuff where we picture all of the employees that Chief is in background with some people, and then we are proposing to unfreeze those 4 positions. One of the things that's very different in PD versus the other departments is the way that we pay, and then you'll also see we have the overtime pay, but then we also have incentive pay. So the officers are paid a monthly incentive based on the certifications that they acquire through TCOL. And then the incentive pay also includes the funds for the signing bonuses. Should we, even after 6 months, we opt to extend that program throughout the year, there's enough money there to offer the incentive pay in addition to the sign-on pay.
Let's see, $67,000 for professional services on page 18, 52030.
I'm gonna let Chief.
So that will include, in our professional services would be social media. We're shredding, and then we're also, the big ticket item in that is Iron Mountain.
Oh,
That
okay.
would be
Document storage.
boxes of
Yeah.
stuff that need to be archived, and even stuff that's off-site that I don't even know what's in there.
And we haven't been paying for that in the past, or?
Sir?
I noticed it's just a new line item. Have we not been paying for that, or it's just been encoded incorrectly in the past?
Yeah, it's been coded incorrectly, and I think this is one of those kind of, Cheyenne can probably talk to it, just because of her tenure here. It's been a project that's kind of just been mismanaged over the years. I know that we do have one of the dispatchers that has been fantastic in helping us digitize a lot of the history that we have over there, because so many of the requirements are going to things having to be digitized. But we have one whole area of PD right now that's from floor to ceiling of things that have to be archived.
And then on page 19, 53,160, we're implementing this humane department. We've only allocated $35,000 for that for the year.
So basically, what that is the contract employee price. So that is, and we just went with the same when we worked on this, what was that, 6 or 7 months ago, and we brought it to council. That was the annual contract price.
So this is just a continuation of that contract. This is not actually bringing it in-house as we had discussed?
No.
Okay.
It's contract, yes.
It don't seem to be enough, but guess we can make changes if we need to.
Sure, we can, and honestly, that is one of those line items that we don't really know. We explored it, and we have an individual that we talked to. That was his annual contract price. That was at 24 hours a week is what he felt was appropriate, and that was his rate.
Well, I know we have a committee that's been put together to review this and come back to council with recommendations. We can amend this
Oh,
if we
absolutely.
need to.
Absolutely.
later
I mean,
in the year.
you can come at any time
Right.
and do, a mid-year adjustment to that. If we get into it with the committee and we realize, hey, we really want to contract someone, but we want them to be 40 hours a week, we can take that contract, we can come back, we can amend that line item and go from there.
Okay.
And you'll see, like on auto maintenance, that number did drop because we're hoping to bring that in-house. You will see that drop even more substantially in the years to come. The first year, when you're bringing a program like this in-house, there are some materials that are an upfront cost that we will be expensing this year that we will not need next year.
How many new vehicles do we have?
We have 8 new Tahoes.
Still under warranty?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And how many total vehicles do we have?
There's 12.
12 total vehicles?
Patrol fleet.
Mhm. And then we have
So how many is vehicles assigned to your department total?
13, 14, 15, 18.
18. And how many under warranty? 12?
Say all of them.
14 are under warranty.
Okay. So that work should be covered by warranty. And I know they're going to expire at some point in time.
Correct.
but-
And that's part of, that's the beauty of the program that we're on with Enterprise is that, they have a 3-year warranty on them, even the PPV vehicles, which are the police crew, the
The police pursuit
Tahoes.
vehicles, yeah.
So the Malibus, they also have a warranty, and all of the vehicle warranty can be serviced at Brookshire Hyundai.
This is a lease program?
Yes. It's a government lease program through Enterprise.
Right. So they do the maintenance there.
No, we have to pay for the maintenance.
Right. But they do the maintenance.
They can, yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So we're hiring someone. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So,
What I was gonna say is, most of the auto maintenance that we incur now with our vehicles would just be regular preventive maintenance, oil changes, and then tires.
Right. Because it's a lease program.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our fleet's in a lot better shape, and batteries from time to time,
Yeah.
but our fleet's in a lot better shape than what it has been.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving on down to page 20, line item 56050, contracts for nearly $100,000, $994,000. It's a new line item. Is that replacing something, or is that?
oh yes, that is the flock cameras. So we went to EDC and we had proposed it in there, and we weren't certain. So we wanted to make sure that we secured an area either in EDC or in the general fund for the flock cameras. So that is the addition of the flock cameras. However, if EDC does decide to post and accept that project, then that money can be taken out of that line item and put somewhere else.
Got it.
Anybody have any other questions on police?
I do not.
Then we will move on to courts. And I will say, courts just stays. There's literally no change in courts. I will say a bulk of the court's expenses, just operational expenses, are absorbed in the administration budget.
The payroll taxes for courts went from 65,000 to 23,000.
Yes, it was just a matter of it was misappropriately budgeted, so it was corrected this year.
Seems to be a reoccurring theme with that line item.
Yes.
Almost done.
Anybody doesn't have any questions on courts, we can move to, so obviously the next one is 900. We don't use 900. It hasn't been used in quite some time.
I think we've rolled that into our other budgets and just included them
Correct.
instead of pulling it out separately as its own
But
line
it's
item.
there, so it'll stay on the books for this year, and then next year it'll roll off.
Right.
That department will roll off. Okay, so the next fund is the economic development, and I can let Mr. Richards and Mr. Green address those if you'd like. And that's starting on page 29.
28.
Hmm?
Actually, 28.
Oh, 28, sorry.
Has the EDC presented any projects? I know it's been kind of up in flux right now.
At the last meeting, they did discuss, I think, they, do you
Mr. Green, you're the chairman of that committee. Is this going to be an appropriate amount for what you think the committee's going to want to do this year?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think we need to. I did speak with Mr. Richards briefly one time about our budget, and I don't think we need to change anything.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it'd be okay.
Makes it easy for us.
Any other questions on EDC? Okay, then we will move on to page 34, and this is our last fund, which is the hotel motel. You will see a pretty drastic amount in this account. And that's because we were reporting revenues that we just simply didn't have. So we now have HGL, which monitors all of our sales tax recordings, from hotel motel to franchise to just our general sales tax. I honestly am not sure where the previous years of 207,000 came from, but we are on a good year. Over the past couple of years, have only brought in $65,000 to $68,000. So went ahead and took that 65,000 number, and that was the number that we worked the budget with this year.
So the hotel motel fund, it's taxes collected from all of the hotels that are in Brookshire,
Correct.
minus the one that we're working on, right?
We have two hotels that have not, and Stacy's been assisting on this as well. We have two hotels that have not been contributing their due sales tax, but that has been reported to the comptroller, and they're supposed to be looking into that.
Okay, so the hotel motel fund was 200,000 last year, and we found out this year that we do not collect that amount of money from all of the hotels collectively in the city, right? And so this fund is used for any type of event that will be held in the city that will bring outside business, outside people to the city, right? That's what this fund is for,
Well, that and the maintenance of the convention center.
and the maintenance of the convention center.
Yeah.
And so right now, we have $65,000 anticipated that we may have some new revenue, something in the convention center for next year.
Correct.
Is that correct?
So to have an event that falls under the funding criteria for hotel motel, you do have to meet like a specific parameter from the state. There are very specific regulations that a hotel motel is considered a restricted account. So that money is restricted. You can't just say, hey, I'm having a Christmas festival, let's just spend $5,000 at a hotel motel. You have to meet certain parameters from the comptroller's office. It's actually pretty difficult to meet those parameters. And then you have to turn that paperwork into the comptroller's office. I think one of the concerns with the hotel motel account is that this state department has really cracked down on how the money is spent, and cities are, there's actually a neighboring city to us that recently got in trouble through an audit, and then they suspend your money for several years at a time if they conduct an audit and find out that you inappropriately spent that money for hotel motel. So we do have to be very conscious and intentional about how we spend that money, that it meets the parameters that the state spells out for the hotel motel restricted funds.
Okay, I'm gonna give you an example. So I received a request for a Veterans Day awareness deal, where that, would that qualify here?
Only if it's it has to be a minimum of a 2-day event, and they have to, there are certain criterias on how, there's a formula, and I can send it to you, I don't know it off the top of my head, but there's a formula that the state has created, and they have to meet the metrics for how many people stayed in that hotel, how much tax dollars were created, and the amount of, they call it heads and beds, and then there's a whole bunch of supplemental information, like X percentage of people in the city provided, food or T-shirts or what. There's a whole. It's like an 8-page criteria. But the biggest one is it has to at least be a 2-day event, which would require people to stay in the hotels in your jurisdiction. But I will say your Veterans Day is funded in the general fund under special events.
Thank you.
So it looks like we're allotting most of this 68,000 for maintenance. I'm assuming that's for the convention center.
Yes,
Yes.
and so when a convention center, when a rental is made on the convention center, when somebody comes in and pays their fees for the rental, the deposit, everything flows through the hotel motel account. But then keep in mind, after the event, it flows back out because of the refundable
Right.
deposit.
Right.
So that's also where we pay the cleaning for them to come in and clean it. We pay them the annual maintenance on it. I'd be remiss if I said we might have an air conditioning expense coming soon. We had an event 2 weekends ago and they left the AC on 50. So it froze, and we showed up Monday, there were ceiling tiles falling out of the ceiling, dripping, water everywhere. So it's been pretty expensive fix. But I do know that is an aging unit, and they came this week, and actually they did not feel confident that the unit was appropriately installed for a commercial building. So
That unit's not too old, right? It's on the
do
warranty?
you remember how old it is? I don't know offhand.
It's not been
Yes,
too long.
right.
It's been quite a while though. Remember, Eric?
And Clint, what did they replace on that one?
No.
Fan motor.
So the hotel motel fund, I'm looking at page 36, and I see Christmas festival, community outreach contracts.
Those were previous line items in that department. So you'll see previously they budgeted the 12,000, but for this past year, we didn't spend that money out of hotel motel because none of the events that we had met the criteria of hotel motel to be able to use.
Right, I
that
understand,
money.
but it says requested in 25.
Yes, we put money in there in the event that if we did end up having a 2-day, Cinco de Mayo event, the money is there that we could contribute up to $5,000 to that account.
All right.
And then the bottom one, the 56130, that's the grants. That's where somebody can come and request if they're having a 2-day function, event, conference, something in the city. They can actually come, and we've put, and again, that was just, we had to make some cuts in this because the revenue was so off in this
Sure.
department. But keep in mind, this, like some of the other accounts, this can be amended anytime throughout the year. So if we have somebody that comes and makes a viable request that meets the criteria of the state's hotel motel, and they're asking for more than 5,000, if we haven't used it in another department, we can make an adjustment to move that money. Any other questions on hotel motel?
So we have one more meeting on this that we have to do before we vote?
Yes, we have two
more.
So I have a question. We've not discussed any salary, labor, or anything in here. And I have a question for the attorney as well. We have an option to make motions on this budget tonight, is that correct?
Discuss and review doesn't have an action item. But it doesn't mean you can't.
No.
I mean, I think at this point, staff's just looking for direction.
No, I submitted and Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, I submitted a document to you that said discuss possible action and discussion.
You couldn't take action on the budget tonight, because you haven't had your hearing. I assume you haven't had your hearing.
No.
So, I mean, you really couldn't do anything anyway.
No, I mean internally. We can make changes to this budget internally today.
Absolutely, that's the whole purpose of the meeting.
No, I'm talking to the attorney, okay?
Yeah, I'm just answering a very obvious question that's been answered 3 times, and I'm just trying to repeat it so that you
Well,
can hear it.
Let me ask you a 4th time, attorney. So we can make changes to this budget tonight if council choose to do so. Is that correct or not?
You can direct staff, and it's not a formal procedure. You can direct staff to make certain changes. And if a majority of council up here would like to see those changes, and they're legal and feasible, then staff will incorporate it as part of the budget.
Okay. That was my question. So I would like to make a motion. Is that correct?
Really don't, I mean, there's no action under this, but again, if you're just directing staff to make some changes, I think you can do so. That's fine. If you want to make a motion to that effect, there's no harm done, because we're not taking action on the budget. You're simply making a motion to instruct staff to take certain steps towards proposal of the final budget.
Well, no, that maybe you misunderstood my question. My question is, can the council make changes to this budget, including the line items, including staff assignments, staff reassignments, or any of that right now today?
Well, you can give direction to staff. You can't take formal action on those things.
We can't take formal action to make any changes. If we want to recommend changes with staff, we can't do it today.
You can do that. You're just not doing it through formal action. We're having an informal workshop conversation
The
with
next
staff.
one is the formal one.
Okay.
So if you would like to, I mean, if a group of y'all would like to discuss certain line items, the majority of y'all would like to see that as part of the revised budget, and again, if it's something that can be done accounting-wise and logistically and is legal, then absolutely it's something we'll incorporate for purposes of your next meeting and further.
Okay, so we'll wait till the next meeting.
So, but for example, if we decided we wanted to hire another administrative person out front, and we discuss that as council and say, we want to do that, work that into the budget to put another,
This is an option, and come back and let us know if that's a feasible option. And that's that is the purpose of this.
Right.
And if you have requests, I mean, we need to know those now so that we can go in and make the changes for the next meeting.
And again, we're not hamstrung by tonight's meeting as well. It doesn't mean, just sometime sooner than later, if an issue comes up, reach out to Jennifer.
Well,
The kind of things that, and we can have a formal discussion with the group at the next meeting. But
I would like to make a request for a minor reorganization.
okay,
Yeah, that's the request I would like to make.
reorganization of what?
Some of the positions. Some of the existing positions.
If you have specifics, just for purposes, so staff can kind of narrow this down.
But we can't make a motion tonight on it, right?
It doesn't mean that we can't at the staff level explore that option.
We
I would
can't
like to
discuss
just
it.
wait till the next meeting. I'll wait till the next meeting.
If it's going to affect the budget, I need to know how the reorganizations are so that I can adjust the budget going
proposed
forward.
budget. Because we're gonna have the budget hearing, and then we have, then the next meeting we'll vote on like the adoption, so we only have like a couple meetings left. So any kind of changes that Jennifer, that affects the bottom line, you have to kind of let her know, so that she can put that in, plug it in, and get the new
Just
numbers.
prepare for the scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, if you're not prepared to do it tonight, doesn't mean tomorrow that y'all couldn't huddle up. As long as she has advance notice of what you're proposing, so that she can properly prepare the numbers, we can have a reasonable discussion about this. Otherwise, if you just kind of throw this on us at the last minute at the next meeting, there's no way that we're gonna be able to respond with any kind of information that's helpful about whether that's a decision that's financially feasible or not. So it's up to you on whether you would like to discuss this now or prefer to discuss it with Jennifer later, but again, I encourage you, sooner the better, for everybody's benefit.
Okay, well, we can discuss it now.
Good, that's what we're doing.
So as I mentioned, the discussion is for a reorganization of staff. Okay. Find my documents. So in reviewing the current staff layout, okay, and let me pass this out to the council members. And one for you as well.
You have an extra one?
Sure. Yes, I do. So there's 3 documents here. One of them is the current reorganization proposal. The second one is the current matrix of the city employees, not hourly employees. And then there's also the ordinance for a city administrator. Okay. So the proposal would, if you look at the summary, it will eliminate 5 positions, create 5 new positions and 1 promotion. Okay. And it would eliminate the administrative assistant position for permits. There's 2 positions there for permits right now. I personally don't see a need for 3. They're operating fine right now. One of them is to hire the second one is to hire administrative assistant for city secretary and the mayor. The other, number 3, is to eliminate the court assistant position that's currently vacant. They're operating right now without it. The 4th one is to hire administrative assistant for the police department. They have a lot of activities over there with no administrative assistant. So my opinion, they need one. 5, hire animal control officer, a contract employee, because we have a lot of residents complaining about animal problems and all of that. So, and Katie has a good program there. Hire a finance analyst. The person that we had working part-time, I think is not here anymore. And as I understand, we were trying to get someone full-time, and that position needs help. There's a vacant department head for human resources that is not currently here, that is not needed.
It's It's not funded.
Well, eliminated, it's not funded, but it's not needed. It's still it's on the matrix, unfunded, so maybe it's a future thought. We have an executive assistant that we would like to, that my opinion only is that we would like to make a grant writer, because the city desperately needs a grant writer. We're missing a lot of opportunities for grant money. We've had 4 grants in the last 2 or 3 years, and one of them we hear tonight hadn't been appropriated properly, so we need a grant writer. We would like to repeal the ordinance. I say we, but this is my proposal here. The council can make their decisions on whatever they want to do. That's just terms that always uses we. Repeal the ordinance for the city administrator position. Repeal the ordinance that was adopted in 2022. Institute a hiring freeze until October 1st, which is new budget year. Eliminate city administrator position out of the budget. Hire a community outreach liaison that interface with the churches, FEMA, and all of these committees that we have. There's no one that's administering them. There's nothing getting done in those committees. Eliminate administrative assistant to city administrator. There was a vacant position for administrative assistant for a city, under the city administrator. It's a not needed position. And we also want to, and I say we, that's my opinion, the city attorney, I feel that she has jeopardized her integrity, and that we ask you, sir, if you could assign a different attorney to represent the city of Brookshire. So those are the recommendations.
I have a couple of questions. So you've got hire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions, but then you also have institute a hiring freeze effective October 1st.
Until October 1st, because no hiring should be done between now and October 1st.
So you want to hire all these people
Right,
after
after
the
October
fiscal year.
1st.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. The animal control officer here, is that representing this open animal control officer? on
Correct. Yeah, that will be a contract position.
That you want to do as a contract, not as a city
Right.
position?
Until we see how it all works out when they come in.
Okay.
Jennifer, I appreciate, Ms. Richards, you giving that to us, because that allows, I think, us to take a look at it and see what implications that has to the budget. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm wondering how all this budget would have gotten done if you don't have a city administrator.
Same way it got done when we didn't have one.
It didn't get done. That's the problem. That's why we're in the trouble we're in right now, because
But
it
we don't
didn't
want
get
to
done.
we don't get into all that. We don't want to get into all that.
I want to get into a discussion about the action. Right now, we're just talking about the budget. So, we'll take a look at it at the staff level
Absolutely.
and
But I have a question for you.
yes, sir.
You said we would take a look at it at the staff level. Okay, and you are the non-biased attorney that represents the city of Brookshire, right? Okay, so my question to you again, since I discussed this beforehand, what do we do to take action as a council? And I'm asking you as a non-biased city attorney.
So basically, you're gonna have the budget as presented, as well as staff will put, and I say we generously, we're just kind of Texas slang.
Right, right.
I'm not gonna be involved in that,
Right.
but they will take a look at this and put together a revised budget, a plan B, that'll show your suggested revision, so y'all can have a meaningful discussion. But you can take action on the budget after you have a hearing of our bylaws, which we published and is occurring on
26.
the 26th
Right.
of this month.
Yes.
So these recommended changes will be in the budget for approval or not approval?
It'll be an option to approve. You'll have
So-
both budgets in front of you. So
Right.
You can compare, you can take a look at it, y'all can discuss, and then y'all can make a decision after.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that there'll be 2 different budgets before us to approve this particular.
Just present you with one, she's gonna have to take a look at the financial implications of this stuff, and put together essentially like here's an alternate plan. for y'all to take a look at.
Okay.
Those numbers won't be in front of you for this week.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, council, I just want to say, before you leave, I need to pull, there's a payroll report in your binders that I need to pull before you leave, because that has personal information, so.
Not subject to public review.
Right. No, you can take the binders, I'm just gonna take the.
I do think you have to put on the agenda and publish this one that says repeal this ordinance.
Jennifer, did you have anything else related?
That's a separate issue from the
Mayor,
budget.
I think we.
So you've got to have these on the agenda, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
This one?
No, it's the other folders.
You need both pages or just one?
No, it's
In the back?
yeah, the hospital. This is
It's payroll and it has PPI on it, so they can release it to the public.
I'll pull it up for you next time.
Yeah, all the rest of these are just recommendations that we would make in the way we want to see organized, but it's just because repeal the
Mr. Taylor.
ordinance that has to control
I want to talk to you after.
the agenda. And I think
Put this on the city website. This is the website. The public can get to That's all.
So. We have,
Back to the agenda.
No, we'll wait.
I don't know where I've done it with.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as the mayor lets us go.
Okay, there's any other discussion? We're ready for item number 7, adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I move to adjournment, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.